Jonathan Lewis. I'm here because our government is not run by the people. It's run by the people who have the greatest capital, have the most money, and have the ability to influence what our government says it does. And it hasn't just all of a sudden happened. I mean, this has been decades of deregulation, decades of lobbying, and decades of diminishing the power our society has directly to influence what our government says it does. I already said that. But I feel like I have a good amount of knowledge on why we're here, on the whole financial crisis, on exactly all the issues that have been brought to light regarding, you know, big business, banks, corporations, the Federal Reserve. And I want to use that knowledge to help this movement gain some ground and actually come up with tangible goals to help revolutionize how our government operates and how our corporations and how our banks are regulated so that they can't go around doing these fraudulent activities that they've been involved in for these, you know, past few decades. I mean, this isn't the first crisis we've had, the first mortgage financial crisis we've had. There was a saving and loans crisis in the late 80s that was due to many of the same reasons why the 2008 housing market crashed. And besides all the, because I'm not getting into detail, because I could explain to you for hours exactly how this all happened, especially the mortgage crisis, you know, in terms of recent history. But I'm also here because besides reforming how our government operates on a financial level and just kind of taking money out of politics, that's the main goal. I think that's the main goal of anybody here, is that we want to take money out of politics because that's what's led to all this corruption in our federal system. But I'm also here because I believe that there should be some form of socialized healthcare. I think it's wrong that we're the only industrialized nation, or one of the only industrialized nations, where somebody can go bankrupt because they can't make their healthcare payments. They can't pay for healthcare. And when you consider that a majority of this population is poor, and that, you know, 80% of the average income, of the average household income, goes towards paying healthcare, and that with healthcare at its current inflation rate, by 2024, the entire paycheck of the average worker, of the average American worker, will go towards healthcare, which is wrong. We cannot keep the system going the way it is, or else nobody will be able to pay for healthcare, and nobody will be able to live a sound, you know, have a sound livelihood if they're always worried about if something happens to them, they're not going to be able to, I guess, get better. And that's already starting to happen. I mean, that's why I have a lot of these homeless people here who lost their jobs, who can't find a job. And it's not just because they can't pay for healthcare. Obviously, there's many other reasons why. But when you consider all the financial burden the average worker has, it's hard to imagine such a society just, I guess, carrying on the way it has, you know, for these past, well, let's just say the past 100 years, because we've been one of the most prosperous nations in the entire world, and now we're kind of losing our I guess we're losing our grip. And we're kind of focusing, well, at least our government, where most of the power is focusing its attention on things other than the people who they govern, you know, like the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and now maybe Syria, now maybe even Iran. You know, that world terrorist plot that happened a few weeks ago, they're saying that was by some Iran extremist political party, and who knows what's going to happen at this point, but we cannot sustain the activities our government has involved itself in, you know, this past 10 years. We'll just stick with that. I mean, I've been throwing a lot of these, you know, numbers around in terms of how, you know, when it all started, but in terms of the past 10 years, we've been spending trillions of dollars on these wars. We can't keep continuing spending trillions of dollars on these wars. We can't afford to be the policemen of the world. And we need to be able to take care of the people here in this country and not worry so much about the livelihood of every citizen who we believe is not treated fairly.
What personally burns you out to Occupy Richmond?
What
personally burns you out to Occupy Richmond?
What personally burns me is that it's just the fact that I feel like I'm just tired of having to choose between the lesser of two evils, so to speak, when it comes time to elections, because elections, the voting booth is where power is, where the real power is in choosing who runs our country. At least from the people's perspective. And these politicians are lobbied half to death. I mean, they are not, even though we vote for them, they're not working for the voters. They're working for the constituents and the people who are basically funding their campaigns. And even though Obama in his 2008 election had record campaign contributions, he also had record corporate contributions. And I know a lot of people are complaining, our Congress is unwilling to compromise. The GOP, they don't want to work with Obama, they don't want to work with the Democratic Party. They're just there pushing their own agenda. When you think about it, Obama had a Democrat majority Congress for 2 years, and he did nothing. And what does that say? Is he just not willing? Doesn't have the will to really, I guess, address all these issues? Or is he one of those lobbied politicians who is working on behalf of, the banking system and the corporations?
Thank you.